Hi, welcome everyone. This is Brian Durkin, and in this edition of Stuck on First, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things I've noticed over the recent weeks and months with clients that really are driven on not necessarily what to do, but what people are not doing correctly. And this concept of 7 game time mistakes that business owners do and what you can really do about it. This concept is we all make mistakes. There's a million ways to improve our business, but these are 7 of the most critical things I've noticed that you can do to at least understand that they're out there and obviously try to go about and correcting those, right? Business is like a game. We have to go through the middle of the game. We're going to make adjustments. Coaches are going to change pitchers. They're going to change defenses. They're going to change their approach at the plate, whatever it is. We in business need to do the exact same thing. People don't do the same thing over and over again unless they just want to be insane, and insane businesses don't last. So the first mistake people make really is about marketing as an afterthought. And the concept of that we buy ads because the Yellow Page ad rep comes in and the Valpak guy comes and the direct mail person and the Facebook person sells something and you want to do SEO, whatever that is. And those are all great specific treatments that you do. But really the concept of building a marketing system and using multiple areas and multiple things for the right reasons at the right times. And that's really this huge mistake, is that you think of this is a one-time process like buying an ad versus building some system. And then, by the way, it doesn't need to be complicated, it doesn't need to be crazy, but it just needs to be some method that you follow consistently. And then the second mistake in the same concept is that you have to have some investment budget. And the investment doesn't need to be a ton. It can be as little as you want. I've seen people do small online things for $10 or $20 a day for transactions or hundreds of dollars, but the investment is really just in that. It's that you're investing in something because it's based on a result, and you can't expect a result without making an investment, whether it's your time, whether it's your efforts. And to be honest, I've got clients and I've got friends that just do direct mail pieces that are simple sequence of 2 or 3 letters that are sent out to small groups of targets and literally 20, 30 people at a time. So the investment is not this huge piece of, gigantic dollars they have to worry about, but it really is something that you can manage, and it's meaningful to every business. We've got friends and clients that will spend thousands of dollars a day in online ads, but they're generating, tens of thousands of dollars a day in sales. So it just literally depends, and it's all based upon results. You have to measure it. And this concept of branding is only a byproduct. We're not going to go engage in branding for the sake of branding, unless you want to be Apple or IBM or Starbucks or McDonald's or whoever you want to be. Then you have the opportunity and the budget. But since 97% of all businesses are those with less than 500 people, branding is a byproduct of what it is we're doing. And then the other mistake that people do is they inconsistently implement marketing systems. They look at a single ad in the local newspaper or trade magazine, and they don't get but one response, or they get some unqualified person and they think it's just all bad. And I'm going to go back to what I did. If you qualify correctly and implement something consistently and make small course corrections, you certainly can do that. And there's tons of techniques out there and tons of folks who can help, but just merely implementing anything will be better than doing nothing. The second concept and the second mistake a lot of business owners don't make is they don't create enough value. And we'll talk a little bit in this sequence about what value means, because we really have this customer focused mentality that we're trying to drive a transaction, but I want to move your customers to becoming a client, because clients stay, customers go away, right? So customers are driven on price, customers are driven on minor things, and they're addicted to discounts, and salespeople are addicted to selling on discount as opposed to selling on value. Well, what are some things that talk about, values, of this concept that we as small business owners really kind of struggle with? But it's really kind of boils down to helping deliver what they expect versus what they know. And let me go into this a little deeper. When you're building a home and you're building, for example, a multi-million-dollar home, use as a great example, that person has a certain expectation of how the process is going. They may not necessarily know all the pieces, but they want to be led through it where it's a comfortable process. It might be, and another example on the other end of the spectrum is, and this is for my own personal life, pest service comes to my house every, 6 weeks to take care of the grass, to take care of my bugs and fungus and whatever else that happens, because we live in Florida and that's just the byproduct of living in the Sunshine State. Well, they tell me exactly when they're coming. There's never a time when they don't call ahead of time. There's never a time when they don't knock. They do an observation. They walk through the grass, and I'm sure their guys can tell in 10 seconds what's our problem is, or that we have none. But they come in, they say, this is what we found. This is how we're going to treat it, or we're in good shape, or we're going to do this. And it's a continuous improvement process. And then if it's not right, they're going to come back in a week or 5 days or whatever it is and take care of it. Well, that's a great, I never knew, I don't know what they know, and I just expect them to take care of my lawn and my home and make me not live a bug-free life or bug-low life, as they say. But it really changes is that they certainly are not worried about fulfilling the needs of coming out and taking care of anyone, but they're sharing their experience and making the experience for me so I don't have to worry about it. And that was really an example of really not just about cost. People think that creating value and adding value is giving them something for free. You know, giving them a t-shirt or giving them a weekend vacation or giving them free tickets to the Bahamas, whatever it is. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be about that, because as a client, I want to know that whoever I've engaged to take care of me, that they're taking care of me and I don't need to worry about it. And because if you look at why customers leave, well, there's really kind of 5 areas why they leave. And one is, this is based on some statistics from Bain & Company, I believe it was. But basically, 1% of those customers you might engage, they might die. 3% move away and are out of your service area or no longer need the products because they live in a condo and they don't need lawn care services, for example. 5% of those people will leave because some friend or family member has gone into that industry and they transfer their business from yours to theirs. About 14% of those surveyed over a long period of time leave over cost. And the biggest number, and depending on how I did the math, somewhere around 68 to 72% of those customers leave over apathy. They leave because they don't think you, as that service provider, product provider, brand, whatever it is you do, that you really care about what it is that you're providing. They just think, hey, they got my money and I'm off to the races to the next one. So you can create value, and there's lots of things that we can do taking down the road to really understand and how to prevent that from happening. But the mistake is, create value, create raving fans, as Tony Robbins says, and give them no reason not only to leave, but to shout from the rooftops how great you are. So that's a great takeaway. So the second thing is they don't create enough value. The third real big problem we see is that people don't have a referral system. I spoke at a recent event. About 25 or 30 entrepreneurs, small group of people I got invited in to come see to a lunch group. And they all talked about where they got their businesses from. And about 75%, rough number, of those folks said they had a referral system. They get their business through referrals, excuse me. And then the second question I asked of them, I said, well, how many of those of you have an actual referral system that has 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 steps that everyone starts at step 1 and goes through step 5? Not a single person raised their hand. So they assume that they hope, as a method, that if a friend or colleague they meet somewhere has some customer who may need their services, that they will think to remember to call them. And I don't know about you, but I don't hope that my business grows. I want to be proactive. I want to go out and find new and innovative ways to grow my business. And one way to do it is ask for them, because people don't ask for referrals. They don't ask their current customers. They don't ask their vendor partners. They don't ask their complementary service providers, really, and create a network of people. And they don't ask for those referrals. And there's some great examples you can find, and we can talk about it a later day about how to do that, but they don't do it. Another thing that they don't do is share in the victory. And there's a million reasons that some industries don't allow you to do it. There may be regulatory issues that you're not allowed to do it. Hey, I get that. But share in the victory. Share your experience with your friends and colleagues that do that, but help find some innovative way to do it, because quite honestly, people don't do it. They never even say thank you. They don't respect, and more importantly, they don't refer back. The ideal referral networks are complementary business services or business products. So if you are, for example, let's say you're a pitching coach, well, you might refer 3 or 4 clients to local equipment vendors or equipment suppliers or an online website where they can buy their products. Well, you would hope that if there's a way for those people to refer back to you, it's a two-way street, and those are the symbiotic relationships that you want to look to create. I spent a career 20 plus years in the IT industry, and I lived and died on my referrals. And by the way, I worked very hard on them. And as a result, I did way better than I should have ever done, because I had a great referral system. And that referral system and ecosystem drove my success and got me to do a lot of things that I should have never had the opportunity to do. But I asked for them, and I was very proactive in doing those referrals. And there's another mistake people make, that is they don't really farm their base. And what I mean by that is that they've got an existing set of customers. They don't look inside your existing set of customers for new opportunities or new ways to do it, or other people that you might do it. So look inside of your customer ecosystem to say, wonder what they did if I actually asked them for help. And by the way, you'd be surprised. They might actually do quite a bit with that. So don't be afraid to do that. So kind of the takeaway here is build this multi-step process and stick to it. Find something that works. Maybe it's one or two things. Do it for 30, 60, 90 days. You know, it takes your business somewhere between 3 months and 6 months to fundamentally change. You do it. People have to do things 30 or 40 times before it becomes a habit. You know, people that are successful create these small changes that are habits that stick. So please go ahead and do that. So that's the third issue. The fourth issue is really people don't keep score. My goodness. What do you mean by keeping score? Well, how do you know who wins, right? You go to a football game or baseball game, you're constantly looking at the score and the clock, right? Because at some point the thing ends. Well, it's because if you don't know who scores many runs at the end of the game, you don't know who wins. And if you ask your spouse, significant other, wife, husband, whatever it is, you know, they want to see the profit and loss at the end of the month, end of the quarter, and they want to know it's about winning. And when you win, you got to be the right person and do the right thing. And you know, business is about winning, using a little Lombardiism, but it really is. And what are some things that people don't do? Well, they certainly don't measure everything. And here are some examples of things that they don't measure, and they certainly should. And tons of opportunity for optimization, but you know, they don't measure leads, right? They don't measure these opportunities that might show themselves. They don't measure their sales pipeline. Maybe they don't even know what it is, but certainly they don't measure it. They just hope that new business comes in next month, next quarter, next 6 months, but they just, you know, they have this feeling about it. You know, they don't have this producer or produce checklist. So if you provide a product or service, when you get to the time when you're actually producing it, do you have a process that manages all the steps? And we're not going to get into the details of it, but specifically, when you produce something, do you know what's going on? So that's the first step. So the second step is really, do you measure how you deliver it? You know, do you really measure how you deliver it? And that third step in the process is, do you really look at measuring how do you follow up this process? Is your customer service satisfaction the fact that the people don't pay the bill? Think about this. How many times have you been in a situation where you may have provided a service to somebody, and even if they did it to you, and you get a bill in the mail and you go, I'm not going to pay that because it was crappy or didn't do a good job? Well, that's not an issue with the billing person or accounting person who's following up on that outstanding receivable. It was probably had to do with something with one of those previous three steps. Either you produced the wrong product, you didn't deliver it the right way or the wrong time, and you never checked to see that it was done right. I literally helped a client last year produce almost a 7-figure business by basically identifying those 3 steps of the process and documenting it. And literally we got more business than we should have because we followed up on every quote we sent and asked how close we were to what they were actually needing, because it was in a case where it was kind of custom and it wasn't always 100%. But our goal was to solve 90% of the customers' problems based on what we knew. And because of that, we literally built a 7-figure business. So when you build $1 million business out of nothing, it was a pretty nice uptick of this business that was probably a $10 to $12 million business. So they got a 10% increase in their revenue stream because we developed a 3-step process for one little piece of their business. Great thing to do, and it worked it today. And the other thing people don't measure on, and this is not just the time for accounting and the other stuff, but it's really about your profits. And how do you look at what profit do you do? Maybe it's on a per job basis or per sale or the day of the week. Do you sell more on Tuesdays? Do you sell more on Thursdays? Really understand your numbers. If you look at Shark Tank and the people that fail on the Shark Tank, and if you don't watch that show on ABC and CNBC, please do, because you have to understand the numbers. You have to be realistic, and you have to have a little bit of history. You'll learn a ton about your business about doing that. There'll be arguments between you and your accountant and your partners and everyone else about what to put in the bucket of costs. I will share with you my experience would be put in the direct cost of that implementation of whatever it is you're doing, and treat your overhead separately. Accountants might treat you differently. Obviously, there's a cash flow enablement to that. But if you take on a contract to sell or to paint a house, and your direct costs to paint the house are $2,000, you cannot sell it for $1,500 with the hope you'll get more work. Because when you sell something at negative cash flow and you accelerate your sales, you just go out of business faster. So So again, you would look at it by month, by quarter, by year, so on and so forth. So really important things. And don't be afraid to measure whatever you can try to measure. If there's a problem in your business, it's an opportunity for success. Think about those things of what are those 5 steps that these people do, or I do, or my customers do, that cause you opportunities for that. So on to our next one. So what people don't do, oh my goodness, they don't upsell and cross sell. Now, where do you ever hear this? Would you like to try a value meal today? Would you like an apple pie with that? Don't be afraid to ask. Well, McDonald's built their sales model specifically on that concept that people want to be led, and people want to be like, oh, I'll go ahead and take that. How many times have you walked into a fast food restaurant and they ask, would you like to try a value meal today, or a combo platter, or whatever it is? It's because they know their average margin is higher. They're bundling things together that you can increase your average transaction. And the one thing here, don't forget about when you upsell, someone will always buy the most expensive option. I don't have the exact statistics, but I've seen studies where something along the lines of between 12 and 30% of customers will actually buy the most expensive option no matter what's there. So it's the psychology of buying. Someone will always do it. I had a friend of mine that was in the power washing business. He took his average transaction by asking a few questions from $139 to $249. So if you can that's a 40% increase. So if you imagine just by asking questions, you could increase your average transaction by 40%. That is indeed life-changing. So don't be afraid to do it. You're going to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and that's just the experience of business. But hey, that's what it is. So, and then the flip side of the same thing is, so do cheapskates, right? So some people will always just take the bare bones, and that's okay. And then you just need to decide if they're a customer or client. So the reason why we talk about that is that it draws us back to, are we servicing customers or are we servicing clients? And you always want to move to working with as many clients as you can and using customers and turn them into long-term clients. So it really is, that's the way to do it. And then when you come to the concept of cross-selling, right? So upselling is inside of our own wheelhouse, our own business. But when we talk about the concept of cross-selling, we're going to offer complementary products and services that necessarily are going to provide more value to our customers. Now you have to decide whether you want to take them directly or indirectly, or you're just going to refer them to business. There's a million reasons why both of those are pros and cons, but if we're creating this concept of moving our customer from a customer to a client, this method really helps us go through that process. The next thing that people don't really do, my goodness, they don't prospect for new business constantly. This is probably the number one thing that I see people, that is one of the biggest mistakes. They hope the phone rings. They think they're going to get referrals. They think they're going to get someone across. They're going to upsell something, right? But they just kind of hope that they get the business. And it really is not the case, because they don't have a system, right? And really there's 3 ways to get new business, right? So 1, you can increase your number of customers. 2, you can increase the average transaction value. And 3, you can just increase the number of transactions. That's the only 3 ways you can create new business. There's a million ways to do all of those, right? How do you increase the number of customers? How do you increase the transaction value? How do you increase the number of transactions? So an example would be, we get 2 new customers a week. We take our sale from $139 to $249, and instead of them buying this twice a year, we figure out a way to have them buy it 3 times a year. We have referrals, we get upsells, we do cross sells. There's a million ways to do it. But the bottom line is that the most basic level is the system, quote unquote, of the secret of prospecting for new business has those 3 elements. There's nothing more, there's nothing less. That's the only way to get new business. And there's tons of ways to do all those. So, and the most important thing is you got to do it every day, right? So you need to make it a habit, and you need to do kind of it in small bits, because if you think about the power of optimization and this 2 millimeter change, you can make so many significant changes of what you do and how you do it. And if you do it every day by systemizing it, it just makes this wonderful, wonderful experience. One of the things I do in my personal business, and this is only recent, every single day I reach out to one person that I would like to talk to about understanding their experience of how they've been successful and how they could share it with those and other people. And I get a better than expected response. Right now I'm getting about a 60% response rate from people who I just say, listen, I want to help people. I want to hear your story. Would you be willing to share your story with my friends and clients and so on and so forth, who want to hear what success is made of and what mistakes there are and that kind of stuff. So it's something I've just done last 30 days, and it's been a wonderful experience, right? So there's tons of ways of doing it, and that's on a personal side, but imagine you did that in your business. Every single day, ask for some new customer or new upsell. So don't be afraid to do it, because it's going to work. And then the last thing that really people don't do is they don't invest in themselves. My goodness, they want to invest in new equipment. They want to get a new copy machine or computer server or software. But it's not just about that thing, but it's about people and yourself. So as an owner, who do you go to for help? How do you get the psychology? Why do some people are successful and I'm not? Well, it's a lot of that's about attitude, right? And the psychology of doing it and understanding why that guy's so busy. And sometimes, you laugh, the guy's busy, but he's not busy. But he's acting busy, but he's not being effective. So, but that's another story for another day. But, and then you look at education, right? You look at things like, what can I do? And these are low-cost options. You can read books, go to podcasts, go to seminars and conferences. Be around the people in your industry or your locale or whatever it is who are the movers and shakers, and ask them. Treat yourself to the education. Make yourself do things differently than you've done before, because I guarantee you, if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it. But if you do that, your competitors are not. And all of a sudden, when you talk to your customers about what's going on in this world, they're going to look at you in a completely different way. If you're, if you service the affluent and you talk about the stock market and the currency crisis in China and the Syrian, European issues, these socioeconomic issues will affect the high-end buyer because it affects their portfolio. But if you provide products and services to their vacation homes, wow, now all of a sudden you care and you have some knowledge, and it's not difficult to do, but you have to do it, right? So, what are the tools you can do? Well, certainly people can, look at things like software, automating software and building systems. And that word systems, I should have in quotes, because systems don't have to be software. They don't have to be some automated process. It can literally be a checklist. Side story, I had a small document management business in New Jersey. I had about 25 people, 26 people. And we literally our business had 7 steps, and each piece of our business had between 5 and 7 steps. That was it. So if we had a problem, we broke it down into one of those 7 things that we did for 80% of our business. And that 80% of our business had 7 steps with somewhere between 5 and steps each. We just constantly broke it, and we looked at it as a way to do continuous improvement. But that's how we did it, and it worked. And then capital expenditures, right? There are situations in businesses where buying a machine that allows you to do something in 2 hours rather than 10 will help you become more profitable, do other things. But you have to have the process in the front end to keep that product busy. So, and then the last thing I really want to talk about is celebration. And celebrate with yourself, celebrate with your employees or your friends or your customers, whatever it is. Don't forget to invest in celebration, because it gives you the rejuvenation you need to do it. And certainly not enough people do it. And take the time and effort to share with that. So those are really the 7 steps. This is kind of just a quick recap. This kind of broken out into really 3 things. I want to think about marketing, value, referrals, keeping score, cross-selling and upselling, prospecting, and making investments. So those are what I see as the 7 steps, 7 mistakes that people make in game time. And I really hope that this is some value to you, and I really loved providing it to you, and you guys have a wonderful day.